Okay, this morning we're going to take a shot at making scones. Now, I've made scones dozens of times. Never was really very happy with the outcome. They always seemed dense and heavy and not really what I was looking for. But, oops, sorry. Um, I messed around with recipe a bit, and I think I've come up with a way to make them that's pretty good. It's much more flaky and light. I usually put fruit in scones. You can do them lots of ways, of course, but dried fruit works, I think, best. Dried cranberries, that sort of thing. I use dried cherries. My wife and I go to Upper Michigan near Traverse City every year for a few weeks, and they grow lots of cherries up there. And so we usually bring home several pounds at least of chocolate-covered dried cherries. Now, I was hesitant to try these in scones the first time that my wife suggested it, because I thought that the chocolate was just melt and run out all over the tray and so forth. And it turns out that that's not what happens. And these are probably the best tasting scones I've ever had. And they're really pretty flaky and light. So this is, I think, a really great recipe. So I'm going to show that to you. And going to turn this off and get it on the tripod so you can watch how we do this. I have already turned the oven on to preheat it to 425 degrees. So you'll probably hear that little tone when it reaches that temperature here as we're working. So I'm going to stop now and get this on the tripod. I am back. Okay, let's get going. First, I'm going to combine the dry ingredients, and I'm going to use all-purpose flour from my wife's mother's containers. Continue to use these after many years. So what we need is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. One. And there's 2. Okay. Get this off to the side. And we'll now get 1/3 cup of regular granulated sugar. So let me get that out. There we go. 1/3 of flour. Set that off to the side. And now we'll put in 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So we'll get the tablespoon out here. And finally, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. One 1/2 teaspoon. Set that off to the side. Now we'll just whisk this up. There, that should do it. So next we need to cut in some cold butter. So I'll open up this stick here, and 5 tablespoons should do it. All right. I love how these packages come with the tablespoons marked off on them, so it's easy. So I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cut it right there. And then I'll chop it into small chunks. Toss them in there. And we're going to want to cut these up, break them down basically into pieces that are, you know, no larger than pea sized. And you can do this with your fingers, you can do it with forks. I like to use a pastry cutter. So we'll chop this up really well. This is a little bit of the process here. Scrape all that butter that's stuck on there off. So I'll continue cutting this up until it's nice and crumbly. I got it mostly chopped up really well, but I like to go in after I have that done, kind of feel around, find larger chunks and break them up a bit. Get my fingers floury. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Oh, there's the oven. It is up to temperature. So anytime we want to throw these in, it is ready for us. Okay, so just wash my hands off here. Okay, now my recipe is for about 3/4 of a cup of the dried fruit. Now, normally I make 8 scones, but my wife is having friends over for coffee, and she feels the scones are just too big. So I'm going to make 16 scones. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to put in a bit more of the fruit, about a cup. And here's the chocolate covered tart cherries. Let's put those in there. Grab a spoon, mix that around, get them as evenly distributed as I can. I think that's pretty good. Okay, now we're going to put in the wet materials, and I'm going to get me a spatula. I have a 1.25 cups of heavy whipping cream, and we're going to need a little bit more than that to coat the tops, but you get that in there. Okay. Then I'm going to put some honey in this, and you can use sugar instead if you want, but I'm going to use some honey here. That ought to do it. I just grated up zested, grated the one orange. So this is the zest from an orange. I didn't think you needed to see that process. Kind of a waste of time. So make sure we got all that zest in there. Okay. So we should be ready to go. I'll take my wood spoon, and what we'll do is just mix this up really well. Now, it turns out that I found out, and partly through discovery, partly through a little research, that the less you work the dough, the fluffier the scone will turn out. So we want to get this all mixed in, but you don't want to overwork it. So I'm just kind of trying to get it all incorporated here. And when you do this, you don't want to have to try to get absolutely every bit of the dry mixed in. I mean, you should try to get most of it mixed in fact, almost all of it, but if there's a little bit of dry, flaky stuff not yet incorporated, that's okay. And we'll take care of that. So, so now I've got it pretty well mixed in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and put it right on the counter here. This is very, very stiff stuff, so it's at times a little hard to work with, but we'll get it out here. And we'll get the excess off there. Now what we want to do is to just kind of mold all this together, okay? And you can see that any of the dry stuff is kind of coming together here. So kind of get it like that. And now what I want to do is divide this in half. I'm going to wash my hands off here again. And because I'm going to normally form it into a circle and cut that circle in eighths. But since my wife wants smaller scones, I'm going to cut this in half, make 2 circles, and divide them in eighths. So let's see, that's just about half right there. Alright, so let's form this into a circle. And you want it to be, you know, maybe an inch thick, something like that. And let's get this one taken care of too. Okay, so those look good. Now we'll just cut this in half. And get some water on this. It tends to stick less if it has some water on it. Cut those in half. And then cut those in half. All right. Now, take these off. 2 at a time, and I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that? Yeah. We will place them on the parchment. go through that same process here. And let me get this wet again. And cut this in half this way. Then cut those in half. All right. Now these aren't all the same size, okay? They're kind of hard for me to get them exact, although I'm taking a little less care today than I normally would, just to kind of get this video taken care of. These are kind of sticky right now. All right. So, let's wash this off a little bit to get most of that dough off of there. Now, what we want to do now is brush some of the heavy whipping cream on the tops. So I'm going to put that on with this brush. So get that on the tops of all of them. And a little bit time consuming, but it's going to be interesting to see how these turn out. I've never made really small ones like this. I'm hoping that I got some chocolate covered cherries in each of these scones. Most of them look like they have at least one. Some I can see have 3 or 4. Someone's going to be happy when they get that scone. So, and some of these, like this one, looks a little bit deformed because the dough got much softer as it sat there on the counter, and they were a little hard to move without having them deform on me. But you know, the important thing is that they taste good, not that they're all exactly triangular. Okay, now we take the sugar and we're going to just cover the tops with the sugar. And I like to put quite a bit of sugar on because I like the scones to be sweet, if possible. Yeah, these are really different sizes. It's interesting how that's worked out that way. But again, they'll taste fine, which is the main thing. Okay, now we're going to pop these in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. We'll keep an eye on them and we'll see how they do. Okay, well, they're doing well. It's been about 9 minutes and you can see that they're starting to brown up, so won't be long now. Well, they've been in for 12 minutes now, so let's take a look, see what they look like. Oh, they look good. Yeah, real nice. Very nice and brown. So let's just put them up there. And now we can put them on the cooling screens and let them cool down a bit before we try them. Well, they look really nice. So let me just start taking them off here. So we can get them cooling. I'm going to put those that no longer appear to be triangular off to one side of the cooling rack so I can sample those. That one's kind of a blob. Put that over here. Okay. Well, there they are. Let me move this tripod. What I plan to do here is to turn off the camera for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll open one of these up, take a look at it, see how it looks. Well, it sure smells good in here. So that's one thing. So let's grab one of these here and let's try opening it up. See how it is. Oh, okay. Well, nice. Let me take a bite here. Yeah, really good. Really good. Nice and light. Flaky. So, that's all done. So, there you have it. That's my scone recipe, and worked pretty well. Easy to do. Didn't take me long, you know, it's start to finish, maybe an hour. And you have, at least in this case, 16 delicious dark chocolate covered cherry scones, not stones. Anyway, enough of this silliness, but they're good. I think they're well worth taking the time to do, and they freeze up really well. I mean, you can freeze them and warm them up in the oven or microwave afterwards. They're just as good as they were when they came out of the oven the first time. So I hope this has been helpful and instructive to you. Give it a try and see how it works for you. Good luck.